Welcome back. Uh, Today I'm bringing you a recreation of the very first gaming computer I ever built in 1998. I've built many since, but I was able to find all the parts on eBay that I originally had, minus the case, the power supply, probably the brand of RAM, but I stuck as true as I could to this build to recreate it and put in a modern case to show off the cool parts on the inside. Kind of a reverse sleeper build, if we will. So, how about I show you the build and we'll go through the specs and show you it up and running. See you in a bit. All right, to start off, I'm going to install this 500 watt 80 plus gold power supply. The nice thing about this power supply, it has a 20 plus 4 main power connector. So instead of a solid 24 pin, the last 4 pins can be kind of disconnected and set aside so that it fits a 20 pin motherboard, such as the one that I will be installing here for the Pentium 2. This is a Intel 440BX2 motherboard with its original I/O plate that doesn't exactly fit the opening. It's a little too small, but once screwed down, the I/O plate's not going to go anywhere. Always double check to make sure your screws are fastened down. Next up, I'm going to be installing the processor, which is a Pentium 2 350 megahertz slot 1 processor. It actually has the fan attached to the heatsink, so I'm plugging that into the motherboard as well and doing a little bit of cable management to tuck the wires under. Here I have to remove the back bracket for any expansion slots. These don't have the screw down covers, but I'm being very careful to only break out the ones that need removing so that I can install this ATI Rage Pro video card in its AGP slot. I'm trying to do a little bit of cable management as I go along, but there's just only so much you can do until you get all the wires in place. The fan that came with this case is a 3-pin, which just so happened to fit one of the connectors on the motherboard for a fan header. And the placement of the 20-pin power connector is going to move. I didn't like where it was at. Just double checking to make sure everything's in place. Trying to organize and get ready for the next pieces. Here you can see I'm installing the front panel power switch, reset switch, and the hard drive and power LEDs. The case comes with USB 3 and USB 2 and USB-C hookups, but of course Pentium 2 doesn't have that, so I have to set those cables aside. Now I'm taking out the hard drive tray, and I luckily still have an 80 gig IDE ATA 133 hard drive that I was able to get Windows 98 Second Edition loaded on. And as you can see, I'm screwing it down. There is a nice, the tray does slide out and slide in, but off camera, there's a couple screws under the bottom of the tray that has a filter that you do have to screw down to hold it in place. Now I'm finding the one and only Molex connector that I need to plug in, so I might as well do a little bit of cable management here. I like using Velcro straps or hook and loop straps, whatever you want to call them. So that way, if I change my mind or need to get the wires out, I don't have to snip a bunch of cable ties. Now, I'm really struggling here to figure out how I want to run the IDE cable. Ideally, this is the way I want to put it. But because the case is backwards, I shoved it in through here just to kind of hook it up. But later in the video, you'll notice that I do, in fact, get it behind the motherboard and make it look a lot cleaner, a lot crisper. And oddly enough, it does go through, or it does go over the front panel connectors. So they are conveniently covered. I will move the 20-pin connector eventually, but now we're going to install fans. Now I'm pulling air in from the bottom and showing you these nice long screws that are provided by the case. I want the airflow to go from the bottom out the top. Bottom is filtered, the top is filtered, so it really doesn't matter. The back fan is an exhaust fan there for the CPU. These components are not high wattage, high heat components. Back in the day, you'd be lucky if you had 2 fans in the whole case anyway. So the 6 fans that I will have in this case will be overkill as it is. And now moving on to the top, which are going to blow air out the top. These are fastened in with regular case fan screws. They are the kind that are kind of hard to get in, but I wasn't going to spend money on fancier fans for this build. These are ARGB fans, and as you can see, I made basically a Mechwarrior ARGB lit marquee sign decorative component to cover up where the other fans would go if you were doing a modern build and wanted to use all the fan slots. This is also a laser cut cover plate just to kind of cover up the holes there and hide some of the wires. I used the mounting holes and screws that are in the case to hold that cover plate in place so there's no damage to the case and it covers everything up. Now I'm moving on to the dreaded cable management and hooking up of the RGB and fan controller that comes with a remote so I can change the colors, because obviously Pentium 2s didn't have any kind of RGB controller. So I'm going through and placing my cables kind of where I want them, getting an idea. Then I'll start plugging them into the controller, which not only has manual buttons, but like I said, a remote that does work. It's a sticky back, double-sided tape kind of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the 2.5-inch drive tray and set it aside in case I ever want to do a modern build. I still have it, but it's not necessary currently with this build. My cable management isn't the most stellar, but there were so few cables running, to the other side of the case that it was really just more about hiding what I've got. The back cover plate had no problem sliding on, no bulge, nothing hit. It fastened on just fine. And does have a lot of nice ventilation in the back there as well. But as you can see, I have cleaned it up, covered it up. Now is the time to finally put in my Creative Labs Voodoo 2 12 whole megabytes of an accelerated video card. The way this works is the AGP card, the ATI, has a very short stubby VGA cable that runs down from the VGA card to the accelerator card, and then you plug your monitor into the accelerator card. That enables the 3DFX graphics enhancement that made video games way back then so much better looking. Not all video games, but ones that were optimized to work with it, they looked a lot better. And as you can see, here I am switching the cables for the VGA because I've already tested to make sure without the card it booted. And it did. So I'm now doing the final connections, getting the cable fastened down, which is a whole bunch of thumb screws. Yeah, that's what we had to deal with back in the day. We didn't have this easy HDMI DisplayPort USB-C, just plug in and walk away. I turn it on, you see the lights all turn on, and boom, I've got boot to the BIOS. And we are now going to Windows 98, which this is time-lapsed, but it still feels awfully quick. All right, now that we've seen the build video, let's fire it up and see and hear it in all its glory. Now remember, it is on an IDE controller with an IDE hard drive. There is only so much it can do as far as boot speed goes, but I'm going to leave this running in real time so that you can see just how long it takes, which really isn't that long. I have updated it through the Legacy Windows update. I'll leave us a link in the description below. You do need to be on the internet, but it behaved exactly the same as it used to. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna run like a Quake 2 demo just so you can see it. Mechwarrior 2 for 3DFX doesn't have a demo, but Quake 2 does. And I'm going to move the camera to a better position. Well, as you can see, I'd call that a nice success. It's not the best machine ever, and obviously Quake 2 plays on much newer computers, especially now that it has support for RTX. But as far as a Windows 98 computer goes, it is capable of playing games that aren't on GOG or Steam that don't really have Windows 10, 11 support. So I'd call this a success. Thanks for stopping by. And next up, I've got another computer build and a mini laptop upgrade. So we'll see how that goes. Bye now.